Welcome to today's episode of Southwest Desert, where we delve into the untold stories of America's Southwest history. Today, we're taking you back to the rugged terrain of New Mexico in the year 1860, to a place where the echoes of a long-forgotten massacre still resonate through the pines of the Chuska Mountains. Our story begins with a tantalizing claim that there is only one man who knew the true account of the bloody event that unfolded in those mountains over 160 years ago. His name is Naltsos Nalyai, the son of the Navajo chief who led his warriors against Mexican slave raiders in a dramatic encounter that would come to be known as the Mountain Massacre. He told this story in the 1930s. Please forgive any mispronunciations in the following story. As we begin our journey into this tale, it's important to note that the events we're about to describe come directly from Naltsos Nalyai's own words, as told to Richard Van Valkenburg. This first-hand account gives us a rare glimpse into a pivotal moment in Navajo history, one that has been passed down through generations. Let's set the scene. It's 1860, and tensions between the Navajo people and Mexican settlers are at a boiling point. For decades, Mexican slave raids have been a constant threat to Navajo communities, with women and children being kidnapped and sold into slavery. The Navajo, understandably, are hungry for revenge. Thank you for joining your desert frontiersman Alan on another Southwest adventure. Please leave a like or comment. For further desert tales, hit the subscribe button. Our story begins in the season the Navajo call Reeds Flowered. Word spreads through the Navajo camps like wildfire. A large group of armed Mexicans is making its way westward, guided by enemy Navajo from Sandoval's band at Ceboleta. The news sends a ripple of activity through the camps. Nataliath, the war singer, begins to prepare his medicine, a crucial part of the spiritual preparation for battle. Meanwhile, the Navajo warriors start patching their thick buckskin shirts and sharpening their lances. As they work, they boast about how they'll deal with the Mexican coyotes, their voices filled with a mixture of bravado and anticipation. This eagerness for battle isn't just about the immediate threat. It's deeply rooted in the collective memory of the Navajo people. Naltsos Nalyai tells us that the old-time Navajo were always hungry for blood revenge, their minds never far from the massacre of their kinsmen in the cave in the Canon del Muerto. This reference to a past atrocity gives us a glimpse into the cycle of violence that had shaped relations between the Navajo and Mexican settlers. As the Mexican party advances, Navajo scouts keep a watchful eye on their progress. They report that the Mexicans are following the Great Navajo Trail, a route that today is partially covered by a railroad. The invaders pass through Cubero, navigate the treacherous lava beds, and make their way up the valley of La Agua Azul. Near Fort Wingate, they turn north, passing through an area known as La Mesa de los Coyotes. When the Mexican party makes camp at a spring in the foothills near Nascbiti, or the place of the badger, their intentions become clear to the Navajo. It's evident that they're planning to raid the Navajo summer camps near Todilquil Bejequid. In response, the Navajo elders quickly mobilize, sending women and children along with their precious sheep to hide in the deep canyons of the Tsigi to the west. Guided by their Navajo enemies, the Mexican party finds the horse trail leading to the top of the mountain. As night falls, their campfires encircle the shores of Bejequid Beneji, the Long Lake, which the Mexicans refer to as La Laguna Grande. It's a scene of deceptive tranquility, for in the black shadows just beyond the glow of the campfires, Naltsos Nalyai's father and his warriors are preparing for battle, fletching their war bows in anticipation of the coming conflict. Before dawn breaks, the Mexican party breaks camp. Like wolves seeking to surprise their prey, they move out early, but little do they know, they're walking into a carefully laid trap. Hidden in the dense forest, Navajo warriors skirt their flanks and rear, positioning themselves for the ambush to come. As the red sun of Jobatiabai rises from behind the blue ridge of the mountains, the Mexican party rides directly into the Navajo trap. The location is perfect, a valley pinched in by two oak-covered spurs, leaving the Mexicans with little room to maneuver. The silence of the early morning is broken by a signal from Naltsos Nalyai's father to Nataliath, the war singer. The Bathli, or war leader, gives the signal, the gobble of Taji, the wild turkey. It's a sound that would have been familiar to all present, but in this context, it carries a chilling new meaning. In an instant, the peaceful mountain scene erupts into chaos. From three directions, the singing war arrows of the Dine, as the Navajo call themselves, pour into the Mexican ranks. The air is filled with the whoops of Navajo warriors as they crash through the thickets, their lances lowered for the charge. Caught by surprise, the Mexicans react in panic. They beat their plunging horses, trying to escape the deadly trap. But as Naltsos Nalyai describes it, they're being herded like jadi, the antelope, into a hunting corral with no outlet. He compares them to Mei, their coyote brothers, running to find a hole to sneak into. Just before reaching Totoquilbehekid, the Mexican party makes a desperate move. They swerve off the trail and take refuge on a rocky hill. Working quickly, they construct a makeshift fort using logs and stones. It's a defensive position, but one that will soon prove futile. The Navajo warriors, covered by trees and rocks, creep close to the Mexican position. In a display of psychological warfare, they begin to taunt their enemies. "Naksai Ida, oh ho, old Mexicans," they call out. "You'll all be dead. Pretty soon the girls over at Cubero will be crying." It's a chilling prophecy of what's to come. The battle rages on throughout the afternoon. Navajo arrows bring down the Mexican horses, their screams echoing through the mountain valley. 7 Navajo warriors fall in the fighting, their deaths only serving to fuel the desire for revenge among their kinsmen. As the sun begins to set, its light described poetically by Naltsos Nalyai as blood-speckled, his father initiates a clever tactic to break the Mexican defenses. Along with a warrior known as Hashkenezi, or the Long Warrior, he sneaks behind a smooth log lying on the slope below the Mexican position. They create a diversion, yelling and making noise to draw the Mexicans' attention. As the Mexicans focus on the commotion below, firing their muskets at the log, something else is happening. Like the mountain lion, the Navajo warriors creep in from the sides. The forest is eerily quiet, with only the summer song of the gentle breeze people playing on the mountaintop. Suddenly, the stillness is shattered by the staccato gobble of Taji, the wild turkey, the signal to attack. Naltsos Nalyai's father and Hashkenezi charge the Mexican position, running in a zigzag pattern to avoid the musket balls whistling around them. At the same moment, the hidden Navajo warriors strike from the sides, described vividly as a stroke of male lightning. The final assault is swift and brutal. Navajo warriors swarm over the cornered Mexicans, their lances and knives flashing in the fading light. The majority of the Mexicans are killed behind their hastily constructed breastworks. A few manage to break away, fleeing through the forest like rabbits, but they're quickly run down by mounted Navajo warriors. The battle ends as quickly as it began. Before the blue smoke of gunpowder has a chance to drift up through the pines, the ground is covered with the bodies of the fallen Mexicans. In a grim postscript to the battle, a wounded man is discovered under the pile of bodies. He's recognized as Jose, an enemy Navajo who had guided the Mexican party. His fate is sealed on the spot, killed for his perceived treachery. With the battle over, the Navajo turn to the task of honoring their fallen. They lay their dead kinsmen in crevices and cover them with rocks, a simple but respectful burial in the harsh mountain terrain. The aftermath of the battle extends beyond the immediate cleanup. Naltsos Nalyai tells us that the tribe later held a swaying dance, a purification ritual for the warriors who had taken scalps in the battle. Medicine men ascended the mountain to collect enemy bones, which were wrapped in ceremonial bundles. This practice, we're told, continues to this day, with Navajo Hathli, or medicine men, returning to the site to collect bones for the Anajihi, or enemy way ceremony, which the white men call the squaw dance. As Naltsos Nalyai concludes his account, he brings us back to the time when he shared this story with Richard van Valkenburg. He describes revisiting the site of the battle with his father just 2 years before the old chief's death in 1892. It's a poignant detail that underscores the personal connection Naltsos Nalyai has to this history. Van Valkenburg explores the battle site with Naltsos Nalyai. They climb to the top of the knoll where the final stand took place. The scene that greets them is a stark reminder of the violence that occurred there decades earlier. The breastworks built by the Mexicans have crumbled, now just lichen-covered stones and rotted logs scattered across the Malpais rim. Under the trees lie the scattered skeletons of many horses, grim testament to the animals that fell in the battle. Mixed among these larger bones, Van Valkenburg notices smaller ones, human vertebrae. It's a chilling discovery that brings home the reality of the massacre. It's a sobering sight, one that Van Valkenburg describes with a mixture of queasiness and a notable lack of pity. As they leave the mountain valley, Van Valkenburg reflects on the broader historical context of the massacre. He notes that the Navajos' actions, brutal as they were, came in response to decades of provocation. He specifically mentions the massacre of some 100 Navajo women and children in Canon del Muerto in 1805, an atrocity that marked the beginning of a cycle of violence and retribution. The Mexican slave hunts, Van Valkenburg concludes, could only result in reprisals from the Navajo. It's a stark reminder of the complex and often brutal nature of frontier conflicts, where grievances and acts of violence perpetuated a seemingly endless cycle of revenge. The account of Naltsos Nalyai, passed down through generations and preserved by Richard van Valkenburg, offers us a rare Navajo perspective on these events. It's a narrative that doesn't shy away from the brutality of the conflict, but also provides context for the Navajo actions, rooting them in a history of exploitation and violence at the hands of Mexican slave raiders. This story also highlights the importance of oral history in preserving the perspectives and experiences of indigenous peoples. Without Naltsos Nalyai's account, this event might have been lost to time, or only remembered through the potentially biased accounts of non-native sources. As we've seen, the repercussions of the Mountain Massacre extended far beyond the immediate aftermath of the battle. The site became a place of spiritual significance for the Navajo, tied to important purification rituals and ceremonies. This underscores the deep connection between historical events, landscape, and spiritual practices in Navajo culture. As we end our journey into this dark chapter of New Mexico's past, we're left with a vivid picture of a moment frozen in time, the bones of the fallen still lying beneath the pines of the Chuska Mountains, a silent testament to the brutal realities of frontier life. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Southwest Desert. We hope this exploration of the Mountain Massacre has provided you with a new perspective on this little-known event in American history. Until next time, keep listening for the echoes of the past. They have much to teach us about our present and our future. Please leave a like or comment. Hit the subscribe button for more desert romps. Happy trails.